Hi, and welcome to Ninson's Math Solutions. Do you really know why any non-zero term to the power of 0 is 1? And do you also know why any number to the power of negative is a reciprocal? If you didn't know why and the first principles behind that, I would encourage you to watch this video on the zero and the negative laws of indices. Hope it enhances your maths and understanding. Thank you. If you have not yet watched my video on simplifying and evaluating powers, that will help you to understand this video, so make sure you make time to watch that as well. So let's begin. So we're gonna start off by looking at some patterns in maths and how that might help us understand these two laws. Okay, so we're gonna start off by understanding 2 to the power of 1. We know that is 2, so any non-zero term to the power of 1 is the same number. So we know that, for example, 3 to the power 1 is 3, 4 to the power 1 is 4, a to the power 1 is a, in that form. Okay, we also know that 2 squared is 4, and we know 2 cubed is 8. We also know that 2 to the power of 4 is 16. Again, as I said, if you haven't watched my video on evaluating powers, please make time to watch that, because that will really help you with this video. All right, now what's the pattern here that we've seen? We've seen that going up from 2 to 4 is the same thing as going from 4 to 8, and is the same thing as going from 8 to 16. The pattern here and the rule is we've been multiplying 2 each time. We have actually been doing our 2 times table, believe it or not. Okay, now what that actually means is that if I want to work out 2 to the power of 0, I'm now going to be going in the opposite direction. I'm going backwards. Instead of multiply by 2 this time, I'm going to be dividing by 2. So I can actually work out that 2 divided by 2 is 1. A non-zero term divided by itself is 1. So that's what that means. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, that also means we can work out 2 to the minus 1. 2 to the minus 1 by our rule, and what we're doing from our pattern, we're gonna divide by 2. Okay, so we're gonna work out what 1 divided by 2 is, and that's 1/2. Okay, we don't need to write as a decimal. It's okay with fractions. Okay, we need to be comfortable with fractions. Continuing with that pattern, we can also know that, of course, 2 to the minus 2 is 1/4, because again we're gonna divide by minus 2. That helps us with this. Now let's see and find out if this is actually true of all other non-zero terms. So we're gonna try and work out this pattern for, let's say, the number 5. So let's start with the number 5. So we're gonna start with 5 to the power of 1, that is 5. 5 squared is 25. Okay, so let's make sure we got our numbers properly written. 5 cubed is 125. Okay, and then 5 to the power 4 is 625. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's find out what the pattern is for these numbers. Okay, so we know that basically going up here, is it the same thing happening each time? Yes, it is. We're multiplying by 5 each time. Okay, so we're just multiplying by 5 each time. Okay, so what that means is that if I were to work out 5 to the power 0, I'm going the opposite direction to multiplying by 5, and that would be dividing by 5. So I'll be dividing by 5, and I know that when I divide 5 by 5, like we found when we divided 2 by 2, we'll get 1. When we divide a non-zero term by itself, we get 1. Okay, and then we can also work out 5 to the minus 1
is 1/5, because we're going to divide by 5, and 5 to the minus 2 is 1/25. Okay, because we're dividing by 5 again, same pattern. Now that is also working. Now let's check for another number. I'm gonna use one of my favorite numbers, which is 10. So we're gonna try 10 to the power of 1, and that is 10. Okay, we know that any non-zero term to the power of 1 is just the term itself. 10 squared is 100. Okay, we know 10 cubed is 1000, and we know 10 to the power of 4 is 10,000. Okay, now again, like we saw before, the pattern here is we're going up by multiplying by 10 each time. So we're multiplying by 10 each time. Okay, so we're multiplying by 10 each time, and that's all we're doing. Okay, so let's make sure we got our multiply by 10 properly there. Okay, now what that actually means is, if we're gonna go in the opposite direction, that will help us to work out 10 to the power of 0, which is gonna be 1, because we're gonna have 10 divided by itself, because we are going in the opposite direction. So 10 divided by 10, and that is 1. Okay, as we continue this, we'll also find that 10 to the power of minus 1 is 1/10, and 10 to the power of minus 2 is 100. So right here we've got a pattern again happening. Like I said, look out for patterns all the time. So one of the patterns we have found is the fact that any number that is non-zero to the power 0 is 1. Okay, so we can see that, we can see this being highlighted. So 2 to the power 0 is 1, 5 to the power 0 is 1, 10 to the power 0 is 1. So that's the first rule that we've discovered. So the zero law says any non-zero term to the power of 0 is always 1. So you can think of any number apart from 0, and there's a reason why, which we can look at later. Yeah, so apart from the number 0, any non-zero term to the power of 0 is 1. So 1 to the power 0 is 1, 7 to the power 0 is 1, 10 to the power 0 is 1, 5 to the power 0 is 1, because we notice here it is the same as the number dividing itself. Okay, then the next thing we've also discovered is the fact that we have a minus 1 in the power. A minus 1 is in the power. The rule here says when there's a minus 1 in the power, it is just the reciprocal of the number. We'll be going to this in deeper depth, so just watch the space now. So it's the same as the minus 1, which is the reciprocal, and the minus in the power simply suggests reciprocal of the number. So out of this, we can actually come up with our new rule. So our new rule that we have discovered so far is that, number 1, any number that is not 0 to the power 0 is 1. That's one of the laws of indices. Number 2, if we have a minus 1 in the power, it is the reciprocal of the number. So this is how we spell reciprocal for those of us who might need help. So reciprocal. Okay, and then this can then be later on expanded onto any number to the power of a negative is the reciprocal of the number. Okay, reciprocal means turn it upside down. So these are the laws of indices regarding the 0 and the negative power.
Hey, thank you so much for staying tuned and watching this video. I hope this has really enlightened you and taught you something about the 0 and the negative laws of indices. Hopefully we can now use this video to help us solve exams questions. Please look out for that video and make sure you watch it, and that will enhance your understanding. In the meantime, remember to like, subscribe and share. Thank you. Ninson's Math Solutions, making maths easy. Yes!